Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Russell's Movie Reviews. God damn, I am back with another movie review. And of course, it's another Spider-Man one, so I have to be joined by the one and only Matt from Matt Games YT. How are you doing today?
Doing well. I'm doing very well.
It's been, God, I think since October of 23 was the last time we ever did a Russell movie reviews. We're not going to be talking about why we haven't been making Russell's movie reviews. The main point is actually talk about the movie, which in question for today's episode will be Spider-Man Far From Home, which was released on July 2nd of 2019. God, 2019, that's already almost 5 years old now. I know usually we kind of give like our backstories with like, the film in question, but kind of like some of the other ones that we've discussed before in our little Spider-Man marathon. I didn't really grow up with this one. In fact, it was only until a few months ago that I actually sat down and watched this movie for the first time. Yeah, so I don't really have any, sort of like, oh, this is my history with the film or, something like that. It was really just because, I was getting back into Spider-Man and I saw that this film was obviously the second in the Tom Holland trilogy as we know it now. So I was just like, okay, that would be an interesting one to check out. And obviously I have at this point. I've only actually seen the film once at this point. So some of my opinions may be a little dated by probably the next time I watch it, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Matt, if you want to say anything about how you got introduced to the film and that sort of stuff, then you can go right ahead and say that.
I was gonna say like ever since Homecoming came out, I did want to see like obviously I guess the sequel, I guess you could say, in the Tom Holland like trilogy, I guess. And I mean, Far From Home came out, and I got a chance to watch it. I think I've seen it like only twice now at this point. But yeah, like you said before, it wasn't like really like my go-to Spider-Man movie to watch. But I think there is some huge and important moments in this film.
And obviously, we'll be talking about those moments as the review goes on. To get into the actual details about it, this film was made with a budget of around $160 million. Domestically, it made just under $400 million, and worldwide, it made over $1.1 billion. So I think it's needless to say that this was a financial success. This was also directed by John Watts, who I didn't really hear of before really doing research on this, but apparently he has gone on to do some future Spidey projects after this film, which we might be discussing later on in this Spidey marathon. Let's get on to the summary. Peter Parker's high school class is actually enjoying a little bit of a European vacation. But unfortunately, it's a superhero movie, so something has to go right, and sure enough, it does. His European vacation takes an unexpected turn when Nick Fury shows up in his hotel room to recruit him for a mission. The world is in danger as four massive elemental creatures, each one representing the actual four elements of creation, such as earth, air, water, and fire, emerge from a hole torn in the universe. Parker soon finds himself donning the Spider-Man suit to help Fury and fellow superhero Mysterio stop the evil entities from wreaking havoc across the continent. So yeah, this plot is definitely way more involved than previous Spider-Man, some previous Spider-Man films, and even Homecoming, to that matter. Considering the fact that we're actually getting more involvement from characters in the MCU at this point. I mean, yeah, in the first one we did have Tony Stark / Iron Man, but he was pretty much about it. But in this film we obviously have Nick Fury, and we actually do have some of his little agents as well joining along as well, which I think is actually kind of cool, and it kind of reminds you that this is in the same kind of it is in the same timeline as those MCU films. And of course, this takes place technically after the events of Endgame. So if some of you guys haven't seen Endgame up until this point,
what's wrong with you?
There is a lot to talk about with this cast. And let's start off with the main man himself, Peter Parker / Spider-Man, who is, of course, again, played by Tom Holland. Now, I think, in my personal opinion, he actually does have a significant better performance in this film than in Homecoming, particularly in the fact that you can tell more used to being this superhero. So it's not he's not like fumbling his way through things and just trying to figure out how things work. It's more of just him being used to things now and him being like, okay, I can somewhat handle certain things. So, I can, handle this stuff. But there's obviously certain things that may be a little too big for him to handle, and it all does eventually come crashing down to him. But again, we'll get to that later on in the film. But Matt, what did you think about Tom Holland's performance as Spider-Man in this film?
I think Tom Holland played pretty good actually in this film. I think he does have like more of a better or like major role in this film, because like I said before, there's like a bunch of parts that are like in this film that are very like intense, that leads up to the next film, which we will talk about in a future episode of this. So yeah, I think that he plays the role very well as like a young type of like Peter Parker in a way, because like we know that we had like Toby and like Andrew with like their versions of Spider-Man, but like there weren't really like that type of like young Peter Parker in a way. So it's nice to see that we have like this younger version of Peter Parker.
So obviously now we're moving on to MJ, who definitely got a character boost in this movie. The way that MJ was portrayed in Homecoming was definitely interesting for MJ to be portrayed, because before in Toby's films, it was, I don't want to say damsel in distress, but very much your typical superhero love interest where, she knows our main character, and, they talk every once in a while, and then our main character becomes the superhero, and then their relationship blossoms. But in Tom's universe, she actually started off as, kind of just a, who are you? Like, I don't really care. And she definitely still starts off with that sort of, with that performance, still carrying on that same performance of, I don't really care. I'm that sarcastic, teenager that doesn't really care about anything, which is something I actually do like. They actually did carry over her character traits from the last film over to this one, which I do like. But what's also good is that she had a character arc basically in this one, where she goes from your sarcastic, character who didn't really care about anything in the last film to more of a actual woman protagonist that actually will risk her life to help out, our main hero, which I think is definitely what she needed, because I feel like if she continued on being that sarcastic person throughout the entirety of this film and especially throughout the next film, it would have definitely hampered her character in these later films. So I do appreciate that they were actually able to give her a character arc where she, grows into a actual love interest for Peter, because spoiler alert, they actually become a couple at the end of this film. But Matt, what did you think about Zendaya's performance as MJ?
I think that she plays very good as MJ. Yeah, she definitely got like a better character boost in this film than in Homecoming, because of like towards like the ending of the film, we finally got to see like that relationship between them. But yeah, I think she did pretty well.
Next up we have, our lovable sidekick Ned. We gotta love a little bit of Ned in these films.
We're all gonna die!
Again, returning by the wonderful Jacob. In my personal opinion, I think I actually kind of like him more in Homecoming, solely for the fact that he had more to do in Homecoming than in Far From Home. Because in this, I feel like that he is the comic relief character, and like he really just like all the scenes are pretty much the funny scenes throughout, whereas in the previous film, it felt like that he was, trying to help out this, best friend that he had within 3 hours. So it actually felt like he had a lot more to do in that last one, kind of helping Peter get the courage to go and, ask the girl that he wants to go out with to prom, and, stuff like that. But in this film, it definitely does feel like he is the comic relief character, because now he really just has scenes where he's just joking a lot. And yeah, he had that in the last film, but in this film, it's like, it just felt like that, like, Ned was really like they were just giving him funny scenes because he didn't really know what to do with his character. He's still definitely a very funny character in this film, and I'm definitely glad that he was still in this film. But yeah, Matt, what do you think of Ned in the film?
But Ned, I thought like he was like basically like that funny type of character again, just like in Homecoming. I do kind of see though, like with him having more of a, I guess you could say, a role in the first film than in this one more. I feel like I just didn't feel like there was that much of him in this film. I think most besides like the whole like with the comedy scenes, but yeah, I mean I think that he was alright. However, in the next film though, he definitely has more to show.
Next up, we got okay, I don't want to say it now, but we got you could basically say partner for Peter in this film, and that is of course Mysterio, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm just gonna say it right now, Mysterio is one of my favorite characters in the film. Oh my god, this guy just has I don't know if it's with the character of Mysterio or if it's just Jake Gyllenhaal that just has this charm to him that you just sit there and you just go, I can hang out with him. I can go to a bar, have a couple beers with him, and shoot the shit. And that's what it literally feels like every scene he's in. It is definitely a very good performance. Okay, that's nothing in terms of bad performance, but there are points in the film where it definitely does show you that like I said before, he may not be all that he seems, because there are a couple scenes when he's talking to Peter, where he's kind of influenced him to go in the wrong direction, when it is eventually revealed that he was the mastermind behind all of it and was just trying to get control over the Avengers company and everything. I was like, oh shit, that's like actually a really good fucking plan. And like the way he does it too is actually like very clever. I definitely like if I can come out with this film with anything, it had a great fucking villain. Definitely way better than, unfortunately, Michael Keaton's performance in Homecoming, which again, I fucking love Michael Keaton, but even his performance in Homecoming was a bit, it was a bit lackluster, if I could say anything. But Mysterio was like, oh, you thought he was good? I'm like ultimate villain form, bitch. You ain't ready. But Matt, what did you think about Mysterio? I feel like I already know where you're gonna be going with this.
I think like Mysterio was like pretty good in this film, especially like you said, like Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in that was pretty good, and also like with him using like the technologies with the drones, that was like crazy.
Like his plan, like his actual villain plan was actually like really well thought out. Like if you actually looked at it like as like, for example, like if you actually looked at it as like a scientist or something like that, it would actually, I feel like it would actually be like, I mean, obviously it's technology that we don't have. It's like clever enough to where you actually really can't be like, oh, like this is not accurate, so I do not like it. It's like, it may not be, real, but it's like, holy fuck, they actually executed it really well. The fact that, Mysterio is using drones to kind of like fuck around with everyone in like Europe pretty much, it's like, it is so meta when you really think about how much drones were taking over the world, especially in 2019, where you couldn't go down the fucking street without seeing someone using a fucking drone. It was so crazy to think people were using drones so frequently that it became like almost the norm. If you didn't have a drone, then you were not cool. Now we move on to Nick Fury. I mean, what the fuck can you say bad about Samuel L. Jackson?
I know.
You really
can't, for real.
You
can't
like one of the
say
anything
best.
bad. Nick Fury is fucking great in this film. Brantley, I kind of wish he had a bigger role in the film because he only has like a few scenes throughout the film. I know this was probably meant as like a joke and like was supposed to be funny, but the way that like Spider-Man like at the end was like after Mysterio was defeated, he was like, it was Mysterio this entire time, and he's like, yeah, we knew. And like Spider-Man's like, the fuck? And he's like, yeah, we already had suspicions that it was him. We were just trying to figure out a plan to like go through it. It's like, then what the fuck did you need Spider-Man for if you already had suspicions that it was him? But I think they kind of had it like when Spider-Man started working with him, but it was still kind of like one of those moments like, then why the fuck the end of this need to happen?
When you try your best but you don't succeed.
nevertheless, Nick Fury is great as usual. Again, you can't really say anything bad about Samuel L. Jackson.
I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker.
I'm just gonna say that like I'm actually glad that we got Nick Fury in like a Spider-Man film, because we usually see him in like the Avengers films a lot. So it's kind of crazy to see him in a Spider-Man film, and I mean, like, it would have been great if we got more, like, just more scenes, because like he doesn't really have that much, like you said, in this film. But I think all around though, he still did pretty well, and I mean, it's Samuel L. Jackson, so like there's nothing bad to say about that, because like he's just incredible.
Never heard that one before.
All right, moving on to Happy, which again returns from last film, and this is kind of like a part of like the cast list where I'm kind of like, with most films, I'm kind of like, I mean, what really is there to talk about? He does a good performance, and actually he is also involved in one of my favorite scenes in the film. It just seems like that he only has, because he only shows up in like the last like third of the film. You don't really see him. Okay, no, you see him like, I think 2 times throughout the majority of the film, and those are through like calls and shit. But then yeah, he doesn't really play a significant role until the last act of the film. I think he still did a fairly good job. But yeah, what did you think about Happy in the film?
I think with Happy, I think like he was all right.
That's it?
All right, and then obviously, we can't really mention a Spider-Man film without talking about Aunt May, played by Marisa Tomei. I think it's
Tomei. I think it's Tomei.
Tomei, yeah, probably.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
She does good with the material she's given. I think just the one thing, kind of like what I said about Ned earlier, she doesn't really have that much to do in the film. I think she only has a couple scenes in the first act, like before Peter leaves to go to Europe, and that's it. You don't see her throughout the rest of the film. So that really does it for the main cast members here. I guess now let's move on to favorite scenes. Now, I do have a couple. I'm gonna talk about the one really funny scene that I laughed my ass off at. It's the one when Peter is starting to suspect Mysterio as being the true bad guy. Eventually, he figures out again with the drones and like these little like basically projectors that he sets up in these locations to have this illusion on of these elemental creatures that are just attacking these buildings and shit, even though they kind of are. So as he's figuring it out, I'm trying to remember what happens. I think MJ follows him out of the building, out of the hotel that they're in. So he goes back to the wreckage of one of the elemental monsters that they fought. And he starts to figure out, like, okay, yeah, there's these drones here, and there's this these projectors around here. So something clearly is not right here, but who is behind it? And so he's trying to figure this all out. All of a sudden, fucking MJ just pops up out of nowhere. So it's just Peter out there trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And MJ's sitting there standing there basically like trying to figure out what's going on. So he's still trying to figure it out, and he's like trying to explain all this shit to MJ, and she's like not understanding a thing. She's like what are you saying? Like, what's going on? And out of nowhere, he just fucking just goes, "I'm Spider-Man." It's just a pause that they both have. And
yeah,
what? And he goes, "Yeah, I'm Spider-Man." And she's like, "Are you?" And like it's just like this whole fucking back and forth argument, but not really argument, but just like, "Are you really Spider-Man?" "Yes." "Prove it." "All right, here you go." Puts on the suit and shit. It's like, "Oh, okay, no, you're Spider-Man." And it's like, oh my god, that fucking interaction is so funny. And it's just like, oh my, I died of laughter every, like, I think I had to rewind that a couple of times just because I was like, there's no way I just saw that. And eventually I was like, okay, I have to actually watch this seriously to understand what they're talking about, because I'm just sitting here laughing my ass off. So yeah, that was my funny scene in the film. But my actual favorite scene is right at the start of the third act. Peter is in a fucking dilemma. He, I think because he got beaten up by Mysterio, and I think at this point now, the whole class is off to, I think, London at this point. Peter's beaten to shit. He has, no fucking clue, like, what to do. He is angry. He's he's pissed off at Mysterio for fucking lying to him. He's, sad because he can't do anything about it. He basically was lied to this entire time. He really doesn't have a way there until a plane shows up and Happy steps out of it. And this by far is my favorite scene. because Happy steps out and he's like, Peter, are you all right? And Peter is like, he just stops mid-track because you can see the dilation in his eyes. Like, is this an illusion? Because like I said, he had this whole battle with Mysterio where it was just full of just illusions, just to fuck with his mind, just to get him to like a vulnerable point, just so that Mysterio could just beat the shit out of him. So he's still recovering from that. And so he's just yelling at Happy, like, how do I know that you're not an illusion? It's like, tell me something that only you would know about me. Or it was like something like that, and he goes to explain it. Like he says, like, "Oh, I forgot what Happy says exactly, but something along those lines, or like something that he doesn't really tell anyone." And he just walks up to him and just fucking just bear hugs him and starts just crying. And like Happy's just like sitting there, like, one, what the fuck is going on? Second off, I'm here for you. And that scene really just encapsulates the whole like bond between Peter and Happy of just them being like this dynamic duo that, you know, Happy can realistically create. Like, he's basically the Alfred to, you know, Peter's, I guess you could say, Batman. Yeah. So he's just like, I'm here for you. What the fuck happened? And like, obviously he goes to explain it in the plane, but it's just that whole scene of him just like, because you can tell Tom put everything into this one scene of just raw emotion, and then him again just breaking down in front of Happy, and it's just, oh my god, I nearly got emotional. It shows because Tom is again selling it so good, and so that is by far my favorite scene in the entire film. And obviously, you know, the end climax where it's, you know, Peter versus Mysterio, and then obviously the drones attacking, you know, Happy, Jay, and Ned, like all the classmates and shit. That's fucking intense. And yeah, just that whole battle is great. But that pretty much does it for my favorite scenes in the film. So Matt, why don't you go ahead and explain your favorite scenes?
I think one of my favorite scenes is towards like the end, kind of like, well, I guess you could say in the Mysterio versus like Spider-Man fight, where I think in that one moment, Tom's Spidey sense goes insane at one part, like with the whole drones and shit, like when it gets all dark, and then he gets like game on, bitch, let's go, and then like he freaking destroys all the drones. That scene was really good.
Yeah, very satisfying from Tom's Peter, because it's because I think that was after the moment, like I said before, I think that was after the moment where he was just mind fucked by Mr. So yeah. He's like, he was just broken, and then yeah, he senses all of them. He's like, all right, like I said, he's like, all right, let's go, bitch. It's like, goes.
Yeah, and I really thought about a funny scene, but I think one that was like funny to me was like, I mean, it was like short, but like basically when like Nick Fury tranquilizes Ned, as soon as Ned comes in the room, and then like he just falls on the floor.
Yeah, he's like, because like he's talking to Peter in the hotel room, and this is early on. You know, they're talking and shit, and all of a sudden you just hear like a, and that just stops talking, and Peter's like, "You good?" And all of a sudden you just see, and he's like, oh shit, and he's like, and then oh my, that whole scene is fucking funny because like you know, Nick's obviously talking to Peter, yeah, he's leader of the Avengers, blah 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 blah, I'm gonna need you for this mission. And every once in a while, like he's talking and shit, and all of a sudden you hear like a you're a fucking knock on the door, and someone's like yeah, I think it was MJ, and I think another point it was like another classmate, and I think at one point as well there was like a teacher that came up, and it I think there was one more knock, and Nick Fury's like, I swear to God, if another person comes through that damn door, something will happen. And it's like, oh my God, that's so funny. Obviously, we're gonna move on to the fun facts now, and we have two for this movie. One was that did you know, Matt, that Uncle Ben actually has a secret cameo in this film?
Oh, really? Oh, I did not know that.
If you go to like the first like 10 minutes in the film, when Peter's getting all of his shit ready to go to Europe, if you look at Peter's suitcase, it actually has the letters BFP on it, which stands for Benjamin Franklin Parker, which of course is Uncle Ben, which apparently, according to IMDb, it says that whose death propelled him to use his powers responsibly. It's kind of cool that they actually called back to Uncle Ben when I think that's actually the only time they call back to Uncle Ben in any of the Tom movies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So
damn, I gotta see that.
This next one is actually, well, it is a little bit sad, but it is unfortunately the truth. So it feels like it would kind of have to mention it. Since we did mention it in the Into the Spider-Verse review, there is no cameo from the one and mighty Stan Lee in this film, because obviously he passed away in November of 2018. So this is actually the very first Marvel movie to not have a cameo from him, because due to his passing. Which it's like, it does suck that this happened to him, but obviously it's more of like, we think about him for what he how he lived more than how he died.
If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it.
The last thing to mention here is the score by Michael Giacchino, and I think it's all right. It kind of just blends in with the generic superhero scores we've been getting more or less for the last 10 years, and I just wish that we can go back, or we can get more actual like classic superhero themes again.
I was gonna say like one more thing, like before we end it off, the ending in this film.
Ooh, oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Before we get to the ending, again, I mean, like you haven't known before. Spoilers, because this does lead on to the next film that we are talking about, and kind of set the whole groundwork for the future of Tom's Spider-Man history. What happened was that actually Spider-Man breaks into where Mysterio is at, like controlling the drones and shit, and he starts fighting him, but Mysterio like tries to play like these mind games with him, but at this point Spider-Man doesn't fucking care anymore. Like he's like, I'm not falling for your fucking tricks anymore. So he's fighting his way. He finally gets up to Mysterio, kicks his ass, and I think what happens is that he beats Mysterio, and so he puts on like his glasses and shit, and like calls like the drones off, like he deactivates them. He does that, and then he's trying to, Mysterio's trying to do like your classic like villain, like, oh, Peter, I didn't mean to do any of this, blah 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 blah. And obviously, as he's talking, he is getting something to come up behind Peter and kill him. But unfortunately, kind of like what we've seen in the past with some other superhero films, it doesn't really work out for him. Peter eventually redirects the drone inadvertently to where like he just moves out of the way, and the drone shoots Mysterio, and he dies. Everything's all hunky-dory, everything's great, Mysterio, he's been done for, he like his whole, massive plan was, it was ruined, Nick Fury, he wasn't mind controlled by Mysterio, and so the whole Avengers thing is clean, and Spider-Man is all hunky-dory and shit, he's at, he has MJ shit, he has a girlfriend, everything's great. They get back to New York, and Spider-Man is enjoying the lifestyle of being a superhero, and then the news report pops up, and it is revealed to the whole world that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker.
What the fuck?
To sum up my thoughts on Far From Home, I actually think this is actually the weakest out of the Tom Holland trilogy. I think it really just has to do with that some of the characters, like I said before, some of the characters that they've had in Homecoming were kind of dialed back for some of the new characters, and other returning characters that we had in this film. While those original those characters that they brought in, like I said, like Nick Fury and stuff like that, and like the villain Mysterio, those are great characters. It does make your supporting characters from the last film, like Aunt May and like Ned, kind of feel like they're getting dropped by the wayside a bit because they don't have that much to do, which kind of does hurt the film. And to be completely honest, most of the set pieces in the film aren't visually compelling, or don't really have that much going on to really make me go, oh, that was a great scene. Like, yes, the elemental monster fights were great, but it kind of the whole, like, while the reveal of them being like fake and being like holograms and being controlled by drones, it is cool, but it does kind of dumb down the effect that the actual scenes, the actual fight scenes with these elemental creatures did have, and it kind of sucks. While I will admit it is better than some of the other Spider-Man films that we have gotten, especially TASM 2, it is still, in my opinion, the weakest out of the Tom Holland. So out of the good Spider-Man films, it is kind of my least favorite out of all of them. So I will be giving this film a C grading as my full out letter grading. But I still actually would recommend you guys go and check this film out because it is actually kind of important for what is to come afterwards with No Way Home. I still recommend it, but it is still kind of like my least favorite out of the Tom Holland trilogy. But Matt, what do you think about what would you say as your final thoughts for Far From Home?
Yeah, I could definitely agree that Far From Home is like kind of the weakest out of the three that we have in Tom Holland's trilogy. But I don't think it's as bad as like you said, the Amazing Spider-Man films.
Yeah,
especially the second one. I think it's still like pretty good to watch like every once in a while. Like, you know, like Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, that's amazing. I think that's all I gotta say, really. Yeah, it's just like it's just like an average type of Spider-Man movie, in my opinion. I will still say that you should definitely watch it just for the continuation of the next film that we will be talking about soon.
If you guys want to check this film out for yourselves, you can obviously, you know, pick up the Blu-ray or, you know, any sort of home media release, or as of right now, if you have a Disney Plus account, pretty much almost all of the Spider-Man movies that are currently available, except for Across the Spider-Verse, are pretty much available on Disney Plus right now, including the Raimi trilogy, the TASM films, like both of them. I think Homecoming and Far From Home. I'm not sure about No Way Home. I don't think that's on Disney Plus.
No, it's not.
Okay, yeah. The next film that we will be talking about is certainly a big improvement over what this film had, and we will be talking about that film next time in our Spider-Man marathon. I hope you guys are excited for what was originally supposed to be the finale of my Spider-Man marathon, as we will be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. And oh my god, that's gonna be a long one. I can only imagine. I hope you guys are, you know, excited that these are back, because I've been wanting to bring these back for a while. I just never really had a foolproof way of bringing them back, and now I do. And now I'm excited to bring these back. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Russell's Movie Reviews. If you like this sort of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to get notified when future videos are coming out. As per usual, make sure to go and check out Matt's channel. He is putting out some great gaming content as well. And I think currently at this point, you are, I think, halfway done with Spider-Man PS4.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, currently like just halfway done.
So yeah, make sure to stay tuned for his channel for more of those. And obviously, social links will be down in the description below: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Letterboxd. You know the gist. And yeah, stay tuned next time, guys, for our review of No Way Home. We'll see you guys later. Live long and prosper. Out.